Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. We're here this morning on April the 8th, Wednesday, April the 8th, may I add, the year of our Lord Jesus Christ 2020. For the news this morning, we are going to be looking at Harry Kane, first of all, and we're going to be looking a little bit about the potential end to the Premier League season. There have been rumours, there have been sort of quotes coming out of Italy about maybe adopting the Belgian style of ending the Premier League. It's like a normal style, but you just have mayonnaise on top, like they do with chips. Hey up Joe, Z02 says, hey up Joe. Oliver Edwards says, has anybody heard what Ollie said about transfers exploiting the market for bargains? Yeah, he did kind of. There was an interview he did with Sky Sports, Gary Neville and Jeff, one of the Jeffs, about potential signings in this market, how the market will affect things, how the virus, how, what's going on with the season, what's going on with football, what's going on with life will affect the price of players, the availability of players. It's an interesting listen. If you haven't listened to that over on Sky Sports, check that out. Not now, though. Check it out in a bit. Jesus, obviously. First of all, then, let's get our first story up for today. Where is it? It's that one. There we go. Harry Kane has been urged to join Manchester United by fellow Spurs former teammate, doesn't really make sense as a sentence, and former Manchester United player Dimitar Berbatov. This is in the Mirror then. Dimitar Berbatov urges Harry Kane to follow his path amid Man United transfer interest. Kane has left the door open to a transfer to Man United and a move that would duplicate the one once made by Berbatov. Look at him, he's walking in his footsteps, who has tipped the Spurs striker to make the same switch. Harry Kane has been urged to put himself before Spurs if Man United come calling this summer. The warning has come from Dimitar Berbatov, friend of Stretford Paddock, in a way, and friend, of course, of Manchester United in general. Dimitar Berbatov, who quit North London for Old Trafford in 2008. Berbatov clinched 2 Premier League titles in 4 years at United and believes Kane will satisfy his lust for silverware by making the same move. He says, I see a lot of similarities in the situation I went through and what is happening with Kane. I feel it's also a similar time in his career that I was at. You start to think if you're on the right path and you start thinking about winning things. United are among a number of clubs with a long-standing interest in Kane, whose season was curtailed with a torn hamstring in January. Kane has 4 years to run. 4 years left on his $200,000 a week deal that he signed in 2018. Nor did it stop the Chingford-born marksman. Very good, Daily Mirror. It says it's not prevented some of the biggest clubs in Europe being interested. Nor did it stop the Chingford-born marksman from admitting for the first time last week that he could leave if the club don't start winning trophies. Kane said, I love Spurs. I'd always love Spurs, but it's one of those things. I've always said if I don't feel progression in the team or it's going in the right direction, I'm not someone to just stay here for the sake of it. I'm an ambitious player. I want to improve. I want to get better. I want to become one of the top players. That is, if a United player was saying that, if Lukaku was saying that, if Pogba was saying that, you would certainly be worried. You would certainly be thinking maybe this player wants to leave. Well, maybe this player kind of does want to leave, or is willing to leave. It's one of those quotes that you see more and more commonly from footballers these days. The idea of leaving a club because no matter how long you got left in your contract, 4 years left, that's no obstacle apparently. He can just leave if he wants to leave. I'll go. It's a strange one. But Oliver Edwards saying this is just Mirror BS. But it's Mirror. It's the Mirror basically funneling a quote from Dimitar Berbatov. There are quotes in there. It's not like it's reportedly has said. These are direct quotes from Berbatov, and I don't think they'd misquote him, or at least completely make up a quote from him. So I think this is there's definitely some weight to the story, some kind of some kind of interest there. It's just that I wonder, let me know in the comments actually if you think Harry Kane would be a good fit at United. He has struggled with injuries quite a bit recently, not just his hamstring injury, but this sort of succession of injuries that he's had over the last few seasons. He's not someone that plays, he gets a fair few games in, but he's not someone you can rely on to be there every single week. And this injury, this most recent one, hamstrings are a bit of a bastard. Hamstrings and ankles are the ones, groins are a bit bad as well. I mean, all injuries really. If you get a succession of severe injuries in any one place, the body's ability to sort of completely recover never seems to be quite as good. The further you go down the line, I think that's one of the worries about Paul Pogba and his ankles. Ankles are one of those ones you use them every single step you take. Same with a hamstring. It just feels like, I don't know, are we entering a period where maybe Harry Kane playing so many games in such a short period of time? I think he was playing like 50 games a year for Tottenham a couple of years ago. Maybe that'll catch up with him. But I think he's an excellent player. Certainly one of the best England, one of the best sort of strikers in England, one of the best strikers in the world. We saw, was it 2 years ago, 2018, that he scored more goals than anyone in that calendar year, which is remarkable by anyone's standards. I know Messi didn't have his best season, but it's still, you're up against Messi, Ronaldo, Lewandowski, Suarez, those kind of players, and he outscored all of them. So he's clearly one of the best strikers, the Chingford-born marksman that he is, clearly one of the best strikers in the world. There we go. This is from Damian Brown. I'd rather not, as he costs too much and injury prone. I think buying him would upset Martial as well, as it did when Lukaku came in. Yeah, there's definitely something to be talked about there. We were talking yesterday. I think it may have been on the podcast or it may have been on the debate video, which is coming out this afternoon, with Adam McCullough about Martial and the stick he gets. I don't think there's ever been, not ever. In recent years, I don't think there has been a player that's been messed around as much at Old Trafford as much as Martial. He came in as a striker, got put on the left-hand side, which he kind of played on the left a little bit as well. Came in, played loads of games, did really well. Then Ibrahimovic came in. He got his number taken off him. He got pushed back out to the left wing. Then he got his number. Then he came back into the striker role. Then Lukaku came in, got pushed back out. Then Sanchez came in, got pushed off the pitch altogether for a player that never really did anything. I think another striker coming in. We're just starting to see the last few weeks of Martial sort of turning back into a striker again. Martial, who gets in those positions that are a bit more difficult to get into, where he seems like he's relearning that role a little bit and becoming a more sort of rounded forward, getting goals. That headed goal against Chelsea is one I always think of as probably his best goal this season in terms of what you expect from him. I think that was a goal where you think, oh, hang on a sec, this is a different type of player to what we're used to here. And I think bringing another striker in, that may well affect him. That's a good, good point there. But at some point you have to go, Harry Kane might be the best striker in the world. Is it worth trying to get him regardless of who it affects? Alan saying Igalo for a few more years, then Greenwood is ready. Yeah, there's also Greenwood to think about. I don't think there's too much chance of hindering Greenwood's progress. I think he's a good enough talent that he's going to sort of make it no matter what. He may not make it, but I think he's the sort of player that put whoever you want in front of him. He's going to be as good as he seems like he is, and he'll push anyone out of the way, or you've got better players, then you play them. So I don't think there's a problem there. We always used to have 3 or 4 strikers under Fergie. Yeah, we did, but we used to play 2 strikers a lot more often. We would start with Cole and York, or we'd start with York and Sheringham, or Cole and Solskjaer. It wasn't a case where now we start with 1 striker. And usually most teams that have 1 striker have your main striker, a backup striker, and then a 3rd striker when all hell breaks loose. It's not usually 4 or 5 strikers in the team like there is in a 2-striker formation. I think as much as we need to have strength in depth, the idea that we're going to have 4 top strikers like we did in that time for a team that only plays 1 up front, I think is probably unlikely. This is from Wayne. Kane would be an awesome signing for United, but it cost 150 million to 200 million, and I just don't see any value in that. Igalo for another year, then maybe Haaland or Greenwood as the regular number 9. There is the cost. There is the issue of cost, obviously, with Harry Kane. I think he's 26 years old, 27 maybe. It's got, like I said, he's got 4 years left on his contract, so you're sort of buying out a partial value of the contract as well as buying the player. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of money. Probably, world record fee or thereabouts. Maybe not minimum, 200 million, wasn't it? So certainly a Premier League record fee. And yeah, is he worth it? It'd be nice to see how he recovers from this injury. If he can have sort of 6 to 8 months with very little injury going forward, and then you sort of pick him up off the back of that. Not quite the same situation, but we did a similar thing with Ruud van Nistelrooy when we signed him. We went to sign him initially, and then he did his knee, and then we gave him a year to sort of recover and play a few games again, and signed him the next season. And I think you'd almost want to see a similar thing with Harry Kane, but a hamstring injury that's kept him out for what, 4 or 5 months? That's it. That's about as severe as a hamstring injury can be. That's completely torn hamstring. And as we saw with Ryan Giggs, sometimes they keep recurring, keep coming back throughout your career, and you're not always the same player you were before that succession of injuries. So it would be worth seeing. Again, a lot of people are saying that he's not worth it with the injuries. I think we should get another striker. Kane is injury prone and cost too much. It's amazing how England's captain, one of the most prolific goal scorers in the league, in the world, consistent over 3 or 4 seasons now. It's not like he's a flash in the pan one season wonder or anything like that, or any other cliche you can think of to describe it, a one-hit wonder. It's not like he's one of those type of players, and yet almost unanimously, people don't seem to be interested in him. Kane is worse than Mason Greenwood. As you said, too injury prone and doesn't score in August and September. Do you think Kane will cost less since they need the money? Potentially, I don't think they do need the money. I think they've probably saved themselves £1 million a month by furloughing all the staff. So hopefully they don't need the money, which is awful as we've already spoke about. Injury prone, not worth the price. Amazing. I honestly thought it would be maybe 50-50, thinking, we should try and get that sort of player in as much as we can. Kane ain't for me. Literally every single comment doesn't want Kane. Amazing that, isn't it? When you think about the quality of him. And not that I particularly want him either. I think he would be too expensive. I think he wouldn't be good value for money. Obviously, a player of his quality coming in up front, I would love to have him on the pitch for United. And usually my outlook would be, well, it's not my money. If that's who they want, get him. Which is kind of what I think with Sancho. But yeah, he may be injury prone. We're not sure. He seems to be, he does get injured a fair amount. And yeah, he seems like a risky one. I would have him with Rashford and Sancho either side. Yeah, but exactly, Chris. Imagine that. Imagine him with Rashford on either side. That's a serious front three, isn't it? John Page says, Joe Ranza doesn't. Thank you very much. And moving on, Kane doesn't fit our style of play there from Craig, one of our members. If you want to become a member, you get loads of extra stuff. We're going to be making a members video very soon as well. Part of the membership schemes, part of the memberships you get to join. You get extra emojis, you get extra videos, you get extra content, loads of extra fun stuff. So if you want to do that, click on the join button, have a look at the different tiers, see what you fancy. And it'd be helping us out massively as well. So if anyone wants to become a member, you get a shout out in the stream as well. We'll shout you out. But imagine Rashford, Greenwood, Sancho, Martial. People were defending Martial before, saying they didn't want Kane because it will affect Martial's progress. Not one of you's mentioned him as your favourite front three. Disrespect, honestly. That's a good question. ZO2, they're not a question. He is a captain though, and we are going for leaders. And he seems sensible, never in the press for something bad. That's a good point. If you look at the sort of him as a kind of a human being, as a man, as a captain, he may be the sort of person that would be ideal for this club. But especially if the likes of Paul Pogba or something like that leave, who, whether you like him or not, is clearly a leader in the dressing room, one of the sort of senior figures of the club, one of the people that the rest of the team turn to and look at and look for sort of guidance. And he seems a very popular figure in the dressing room. Maybe we would need someone like that if he were to leave. Interesting point there. Rune Jones there saying, Martial isn't title-winning quality. There do seem to be a lot of people who have this opinion. Again, there, Martial is too inconsistent, mate. Interesting, isn't it? It's amazing that he's been here for so long. He's got such a talented players. His dribbling, his finishing are all excellent, but there does seem to be still this nagging doubt from a lot of the fan base about Anthony Martial. Let's move on then to our second story for today. We've got 2 stories for today, couple of stories. Second one, league to be cancelled. This is reporting on the Udinese Chief Marino, like Dan Marino of the Miami Dolphins. Says Premier League will cancel rest of season. I don't see. This is like that kind of terminology and that kind of shortening of sentences. Udinese Chief Marino says Premier League will cancel rest of season. That was originally brought in to save space on a headline in a newspaper where there's this physical piece of paper that the headline needs to be big enough and you need to get all the punchy words in quickly enough so that you're not taking up too much space so people can read it quickly, so it's not some long cumbersome title. This is the headline of a goal.com website that doesn't have a paper version to sort of squash words into, and they're still shortening it. United chief Marino says Premier League will cancel rest of season. Just put the rest of the season. Easy. Anyway, the Jupiler Pro League has called an end, which is the Belgian league, to the 2019-20 season and crowned Club Brugge champions, with England allegedly set to do similar. The Premier League will follow Belgium's top tier and cancel the rest of its season, according to Udinese's sporting director, Pierpaolo Marino. Fuck yeah. With Liverpool 25 points clear atop the table. The Premier League was suspended last month due to the coronavirus pandemic. Don't know if you've heard of it, Google it if not. The league announced that its suspension would continue indefinitely. Many leagues around the world have been brought to a standstill. But Belgium's Jupiler, sorry, I always say Jupiler because it reminds me of gin. Jupiler League, having cancelled the rest of the season and awarding this title to leaders Club Brugge. Marino, who are owned by Gianpaolo Pozzo, the father of Watford owner Gino. So there is some link here. So, the sporting director of Udinese, who Udinese themselves are owned by the father of the owner of Watford. So, whilst that is a somewhat tenuous link, there is certainly a link there. And so, this is a family and a set of people that may have heard some of the inside talking around the finale of the Premier League. He said the Belgian Federation has already sanctioned the end of their league, despite threats of sanctions from UEFA. In England, the Premier League is about to release a similar statement because the situation there is becoming very, very serious. I just hope we can enjoy football again after the coronavirus. It doesn't matter how long it takes. We need to get out of this danger zone. I'm worried for the next seasons, not the old ones. Now, again, let's read the important part there. In England, the Premier League is about to release a similar statement. Do you know what this quote reminds me of? Just this sort of relaxed, oh, what did I say? Look at this. I've just said this thing that we've all wanted to know for ages, and I've just said it like, oh, it's this just casual nothing statement. Do you remember that bloke was like, oh yeah, Koulibaly's going to join United in the summer? And we're like, excuse me? And he's like, oh, didn't you know? Yeah, he'll be joining in the summer for about 60 million. And it's just one of those where it's like, does he know this? Is that because presumably the Premier League will have made some sort of provisions for a scenario like that. So they will have gone, if we can't play by August, we have to cancel the season. There has to be some provision, like I said, that is in place for a no more games are played in this league season scenario. So of course there will be some plans and some idea of what that would entail. But it seems as though that I do really think the Premier League would like to continue playing. But, the Udinese chief sporting director knows more about the inside of football than me. What do we think? Do you think that, it's best just to cancel the season? Do you think that they will cancel the season? Or do you think that this is just some guy who's sort of talking about rumours that he's heard behind the scenes and, maybe, it's not going to happen? Because it's quite a serious... And he's the first person to say it. Why would the Udinese sporting director be the one to break this news? Again, in England, the Premier League is about to release a very similar statement. We'll find out. I think the interesting thing is, from a sporting perspective, I think it's difficult to award Liverpool the title. But from a kind of a fairness and let's look at things how they are, they would have won it. I know they didn't win it. And that's the thing, isn't it? When it's usually sport and football and just sport generally, things have to be so black and white. Any sort of law, there is a tipping point. There is a single line that has to be drawn. And then you have people on both sides of that line exploiting the law either way. So some people, any given law, this happens. Well, it wasn't quite that, so it's not that. Or it was that, so I can go back the other side kind of thing. So it usually has to be black and white laws put in place. And the idea of you've won the title even though you haven't, that sort of is almost against what you kind of think of as a law and as a rule. And, what rule is being enacted here? Oh, if you're 25 points clear, or if you're, more than 5 points clear when a pandemic happens, you win the league. Or if they're only 3 points clear, would they have given it them? Or, does it have to be 20? That's the thing. What rule is being enacted here? That's why it feels to me like it's kind of hard to give Liverpool the title, even though they would have won it. But what is the basis of that? What rule is that can then be sort of put forward as a future kind of reference point if this ever happens again? What was the rule? Because that's how sport works, that's how law works, that's how everything works. It's all sort of rules based. Everything has to be a line in the sand. Here's what's going on. Also, the Premier League clubs isn't. This is a good point, actually. Also, the Premier League clubs isn't just a person. It's all the clubs. We'd know if they'd voted for this already. Well, I think the clubs get a vote, and I think the FA and UEFA have kind of their own say and their own people that make these decisions as well. I think the executives and the players, or maybe not the players, maybe a captain or something gets some sort of say, but I think it's the executives of the top flight clubs, certainly for the Premier League, get together and have their opinions and have their say and vote on things. But I do think, I'm not exactly sure if it's a total sort of committee where their votes count with certainty or whether they are just taken into account when the decisions are made. But I think the Premier League could basically do what they want on this, as far as I'm aware. But, you know, it's interesting, isn't it? People still talking about Mason Greenwood, and with, you know what, quite rightly too. Let's have a little look what we're talking about. Cheeky Bum Bum says 3 or 4 years Greenwood will be pushing for the best player at the club. Once he's bulked up a little bit, he's prolific. Yeah, exactly. Joel Page says, Joe, did I see you out drinking last night? Absolutely not, no. Where you can't even go out drinking. Where was it? What, in the park? I ain't got a park near me. There's a car park, but that's not really a park, is it? You know what? Calling car parks, naming them after parks, is one of the most destructive and awful things that the car industry ever did. Like trying to compare, you know, like the Garden of Eden to what is it? What's called a fucking LPC car park, or whatever it's called. Absolutely disgusting park. Call it a car. Don't know. Car party, maybe. That'd be better. Calling them parks. Awful. Anyway, Greenwood cut his hair to look like R9. No, I just think he cut his hair and people said he looked like him. I think loads of people have cut their hair. I don't think when, you know, my mate shaved his hair off, it was to look like R9. It's just people just shaving their hair, aren't they? Because like Luke Shaw, no one's saying he looks like R9. They're saying he looks like, you know, Grant Mitchell. Anyway, someone said the head of FIFA said if the league is cancelled, Liverpool won't be crowned. I didn't see that quote, so that's very much spurious as far as I'm concerned, but it could be true. Anyway, Adam McCullough shaved his hair to look like R9. Yeah, exactly. I don't think he did. I think he shaved his hair to look like David Beckham in 2000. But again, that's conjecture, and I'm making that up. Anyway, that's going to be all for today. Speaking of Adam McCullough, though, good of you to bring him up. He will be back for another debate. I don't know if you saw the last one we did, talking about Paul Pogba, but we've got another one coming out today. And this is who should be Harry Maguire's partner at centre-back. A lot of people still don't like Victor Lindelof, despite him playing so many games over the last 18 months, despite him being, you know, one of United's best defenders, one of United's best players in the last 18 months. A lot of people are still questioning our Swedish superstar, but that will be coming out about 4 o'clock today, so be sure to tune in for that. Thank you very much for joining me this morning. Again, it is the 8th of April, Wednesday the 8th of April. I'm making sure these weeks stay as weeks so people don't just drift from one day to the next without knowing what's going on, because it is very easy to do. But again, thank you very much for joining me. We'll see you next time.